You have
Yeah,
imposter
exactly.
syndrome or self-doubt, or you believe you're not good enough, but you have no idea why or where it comes
Yeah.
from. So you don't really know how to get rid of it. So I help people find that, figure out where it comes from, and release that.
Hi, everyone. Elle Ballard is here today on the Powered Global Women in Business podcast. This is a special edition of our podcast, bonus edition, as part of Popadalooza event. And I have my other featured guest today with us, Lori McDowell. Lori, welcome.
Welcome, Elle. I'm happy to be here.
Lori McDowell, PhD, is CEO of Reimagine You Strategies and the author of The Reinvention Mindset. Lori is passionate about helping individuals find joy and fulfillment in business and in life. As a speaker, Lori shares her story of how she reinvented herself by tapping into her beliefs that we cannot control what happens and we have a choice what we do with it. Lori is a TEDx speaker, and she believes it is never too late to make a change, and we all have the power to reinvent our reality. Beautiful. Welcome. How did you come to do this work?
Right. Yeah. Well, I have a PhD in actually chemical engineering, so a little bit different than what I'm doing today. And I worked there, I worked in corporate America in chemical engineering for probably a little over 30 years. And I didn't hate my job, but I didn't love it. It was,
Mm-hmm.
I worked really hard. I got paid really well. I sacrificed a lot to put in long hours. I followed all the rules and moved up the ladder.
Yeah.
And it was a good job. And on paper, it looked amazing. Yet I always felt like something's missing, and I'd do it for a couple of years and I'd be really happy. And then it kind of like would go down again. But it was hard to leave because I had a great salary and it was easy and comfortable. So I never thought of something else. And then not too long ago, I was actually, let's just say I was giving my freedom, I like to say. And when it happened, I thought I would have been horrified and upset. And all I could think of was like, wow, I'm so happy. I don't have to do that anymore. And I realized that I had been, doing this work that I wasn't making me happy. That wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I don't know what I want to do yet, but I have time. So I'm going to figure out what I want to do. And I'm going to do what really lights me up, what gives me joy. And I'm not going to put my happiness in anyone else's hands. So I knew I was not going to work for a company again. I was going to start my own business doing something. So I took some time figuring it out. I always wanted to write a book. I never had the time. So I wrote a book. And I
Yeah.
wrote the book for
Congratulations.
me. I wrote it for me as much as anyone else. The book kind of took me through the journey and helped me figure out what do I want to do
Mm.
and how do I reinvent myself. And I think the passion comes from so many people. I think there's so many people like me who either are running their own business or working in corporate, but they're working so hard and they're working in their head and they're following all the rules and doing all the right things, and yet they're not, they're empty, they're not fulfilled. They're like, is this
Yeah.
all there is, and why did I make all these sacrifices? So I want to help those people find joy and fulfillment, and I want to make every day happy for them, because I think the world should be a happy place, and there's so much out there if we could just find it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing your story. Um, I can relate because I was just on a similar journey.
Yeah.
So important to just pause and ask, am I doing what I absolutely love doing, right? I think in the busyness of day to day, payment for bills, right? All that we have to do, the voices, it's just sometimes we get so busy that there is no time, or we think there is no time, right? Um,
Right.
and I love what you do because I think it's just so timely today. A lot of people are confused. A lot of people are burned out in transition. How do you help people transition?
Right. Yeah. The way I help people, I actually take them through, it's kind of a three-step process. The first process is really one of the most important. And that's the one that it's called discovery. And it's really about your thoughts and about yourself. And it's really like learning, like looking at your life and asking yourself, what do I want? Why am I doing this? What lights me up? What do I, what's the purpose of my life? And that part I help take them through it, but that's something people could do by themselves as well. But having an outside force helps. And then also, is holding me back. Because often it's us holding us back, but it's not obvious to you why you're holding yourself back. You have
Yeah,
imposter
exactly.
syndrome or self-doubt, or you believe you're not good enough, but you have no idea why or where it comes
Yeah.
from. So you don't really know how to get rid of it. So I help people find that, figure out where it comes from and release that. And then
Mm,
once they do that, then I give them tools to be successful, both in life and things like, meditations and just everyday tools to help you when you feel like you're struggling, to help you get past that, and just ways to get your beliefs. And then in that part I call commit. So that's where you take what you learned in the discovery and you kind of put it into action. And then the
mhm.
last part I call integration. And that's where you integrate your whole life. You integrate your conscious and your subconscious mind, all the voices in you, your intuition, and that's where it's really fun. That's where you get that breakthrough, that you start to feel, you love to get out of bed every morning and you feel like you're unstoppable. So that's the really fun part, where you get to make your own rules and live from your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love the three parts and how you starting with the source and then you leading up to, yeah, that's beautiful. So we are on the Empowered Global Women in Business podcast. Can you share with us how this journey has been for you? What does it mean for you to be building a business on your own terms now?
It's incredibly empowering. I mean, really, it is, because for the first time, I feel like I'm making the rules. I'm living the way I want to live, and my happiness comes from no one but myself. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter what happens outside of me. If a client doesn't sign up with me, it's like, oh, well, there'll be more. It's because I'm at that place where I'm really, coming from my heart and I'm comfortable. I don't let the outside interfere, and I just trust that it'll work out. And it's, and it's not easy. There are challenges. Some months may not work out that
Yeah.
other months it does. So but it's just, it's always being in charge, knowing that, if I want to stay in bed all day and watch TV, I can, because maybe that's what I need that day. And
Yeah.
that's what's so empowering. And just when I see other women who I help take charge of their life, it's such an amazing feeling. Like one of my first clients, when I first started working with her over a couple of years ago, like recently, she told me that her business is great and her life is great, and she didn't think she could have done it without me. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, I'm done now. I don't need anything else. That just makes me feel so good. I can, if I
Yeah.
die tomorrow, I'm happy. So
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Creating this freedom-based business, but not only for yourself, but for others too, right? Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for the work you do. I think
I
it's just
think,
so important to have a guide during transitions like this, right? Having
yeah.
somebody who's done that. In building this business for yourself, what are some of the big lessons that you have learned that you could share with us?
Sure. The first thing I learned is not to that I need to take care of myself, and that includes things like a mindfulness practice,
Mhm.
whether it's meditating, journaling, breath work. I have to, that's a big part of my life, and I'm not just doing it to checking a box. I mean, it's integral, and if I don't do it, I notice it. So, and the same thing, movement every day, doing something, even if it's just walking, getting fresh air, because it all, when it's your business, you really have to put yourself first. You're the most important person in that business, and if you can't take care of yourself, you can't help anybody else. So that was really important. One of the other things I learned that was incredibly valuable is that you can't do it by yourself. You
Mhm.
need to have some kind of help. A coach is really important. People who have taken this path before, getting their advice, groups, networking groups, a higher power, having someone bigger than yourself that you could go to. But just really, even though it's your business, and even if you're doing it, you may be the only employee, you don't want to be doing it by yourself, because it's so much easier to people see outside of you, see things you don't see. And
Yeah.
if you're all by yourself, everything is, a lot harder and a lot lonelier. So having those connections has been really important. Having people you can turn to, people you can trust, and even just strangers who are in the same place and getting to know them. I mean, having those people is amazing. So those are two really good things. And the third thing is just having a really strong belief that
Mhm.
you're going to succeed, that everything's going to work out, that, you have to
Yeah.
have, even when things are falling around, falling apart around you. I mean, if you're struggling to pay the bills or you're having problems with work or, employee problems, you still have that belief that, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to work out. I'm going to succeed, because there's going to be tough times. But when you have those beliefs, you can easily get through them, because it's just a step, and you figure out, well, okay, what can I learn for this so I can do better next time? Or how does this help me? But it's having that belief that things are going to be okay and that there's enough for everybody. We can all succeed. I mean, I truly believe in abundance. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not
Me
like
too.
somebody has to fail. Everybody can succeed.
Yes, yes, there's enough for all of us. I love
Mhm.
that. Thank you, Lori, for those reminders. And all of those they can be quickly said, right? But it's a process, right? And so thank
Right.
you for sharing that wisdom, those nuggets. Definitely great reminders. As we are getting close to the finish line here, how can our listeners, whether they are watching on YouTube or listening on podcast, how can they find you? And I know we will post links for how to connect with Lori as well.
Right. Yes. My website is my company is Reimagine You, like the letter U strategies. So the website is reimagineyou.net. My
Mhm.
email is lmcdowell@reimagineyou.net. I'm also very active on LinkedIn and a little bit active on Facebook and Instagram. So I'll put those links there. I won't read them all, so you won't remember them. And then, like I said, I love to connect with people. If someone would like to, and I will give a lead magnet as well link, but I have an assessment that I'd love to share that kind of helps you figure out where you are today. Because knowing your
Yeah.
starting point is a great way to figure out, what you have to do and where you should be working. So it's I call it the celebrate soul success assessment. So I'll share that. And then if you want to connect with me, my booking link is really simple. It's booklori.com, Lori. So just booklori.com. So feel free to go on my calendar, book 15 minutes or 30 minutes, because I love hearing about people. And you can ask me any questions. I'm happy to give free tips or just make a connection. So
Fabulous. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Lori, for being on our podcast today. And as a finishing thought, if there is anything else that you would want to share with our listeners today, please feel free to do so.
yeah, let's see. I guess the one thing I'd like to share is that, to just remember that everything you need, to achieve your goals, you already have it. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all inside of you. You just need to figure
Mhm.
out how to get it out. But, there's nothing that we're lacking, no matter who you are, where you are in your world or your life, whether you're 20 or 70, you still have everything you need. And if once you know that, the rest is easy, because that's really, then it's just finding it, but you've already got it.
Thank you so much, Lori. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being on our podcast today.
All right. Thank you, Elle. Nice to meet you as well.